Hi, my name is Kai, and today I want to tell you the real story of Avakin Life. I've been playing this game for 9 years, and during that time, the community's opinion of it has only gotten worse. People say a lot of unpleasant things about it nowadays, but players have never reached a single clear reason for why Avakin changed its direction so drastically. Over time, rumors have appeared about debts, a possible sale, and other speculations. But the truth is something else entirely. So what really happened? Let's go step by step. It all began in 2005 with a company called Outso, founded by Holly Thorbjornsen and Joel Kemp. They started with outsourcing, then moved to helping Sony develop PlayStation games, completing around 60 projects. That's how the predecessor to Avakin appeared, Sodium 1. And when Sony shut down PlayStation Home, they rebranded as Lockwood Publishing and invested all their resources into mobile development. By 2013, Avakin Life was launched, starting what would become its golden age. Lockwood began receiving award after award. Creative Leaders of the Future in the UK, ranked 36th among the fastest-growing tech companies by Deloitte, and named Best Place to Work by Gameindustry.biz. In 2019, they even made it into the Sunday Times list of Britain's fastest-growing private tech companies. On top of that, they won TIGA's Game of the Year 3 years in a row, 2018, 2019, and 2020. And then, it all fell apart. Let's go back to the founders, Holly Thorbjornsen and Joel Kemp. On LinkedIn, you can see their work history. Holly and Joel, both listed as co-founders since 2009, but Joel's entry ends in 2019. That means since mid-2019, Avakin has had only one founder left, Holly Bjornsen. Now, you might be tempted to connect this to the decline, but let's not jump to conclusions just yet. Journalists have already done the digging for us. What follows is based on articles from The Gamer, MCV Develop, Gameindustry.biz, and Pocketgamer. Links are in the description. December 2021. The IWGB, Independent Workers' Union of Great Britain, accuses Lockwood of conducting illegal mass layoffs. This was a company that, just a few years prior, was praised as one of the best places to work. Now they were trying to fire 33 out of 200 employees without warning. According to the employees themselves, their IT accounts were suddenly deactivated, and they were told they were at risk of redundancy.
One day, without any previous notice, HR called us into an agendaless meeting. We were told we were at risk of redundancy, but not given any real explanation as to why. Some people had their work accounts deactivated within minutes and were told they couldn't say goodbye to their coworkers.
And was it even necessary? Was Avakin truly drowning in debt? No, not a word about that. Instead, here's what we know. Just the year before, after winning TIGA, Lockwood caught the attention of Tencent, which invested $25 million into Avakin's development. During the COVID period, Avakin's active monthly user base peaked at 7 million. And perhaps the most shocking finding from IWGB, the CEO's annual salary was £360,000 sterling. For comparison, the average annual salary in the UK is about £30,000. And maybe Holly could justify this by saying he was doing something so crucial for the game that it deserved such a massive paycheck? One former employee claimed that Bjornsen's high salary was a recurring issue during their time at the company. We specifically called that out in a few of our meetings with leadership, but got quite a hostile response. And that's just Holly. According to the same union, an additional £600,000 per year was being spent on director expenses, on top of already high executive salaries. Perhaps leadership was working on something truly groundbreaking. Sadly, anonymous sources paint a different picture. Bjornsen had a habit of hiring yes men with no experience, and several employees who challenged management ended up losing their jobs. The story about the layoffs also appeared briefly on Avakin's Reddit, but unfortunately, it never reached the majority of players. Lockwood promised not to repeat mass redundancies, and things quieted down until mid-2022. And guess what? Management faced the exact same criticism, again. According to former employees, Lockwood continued to lay off staff, but this time replaced them with new directors, many of whom seemed to be personal acquaintances of the CEO. There are a lot of new hires in leadership, one review said, and often they're friends of management, being paid extremely high salaries. This time, Holly gave advance notice that at least 29 employees would be let go, and stated the company had reviewed office space, licensing fees, and headcount as part of a restructuring plan. In other words, the staff was shrinking, but the number of executives kept growing. Why keep programmers who fix bugs? Why maintain a large support team when all they get are complaints instead of thank you letters? The game works as is, so just keep a couple of designers, release some overpriced crowns, and call it a day. Now, here's where it gets absurd. When explaining the second wave of layoffs, the CEO cited the war in Ukraine. You don't see the connection? Neither do we. MCV Develop reached out to Holly for comment, and here's what he told them.
Some of our team have raised questions about whether we could use our investment to avoid redundancies. We cannot do this. In order to thrive into the future, we have to build a sustainable, profitable, and successful business. And sadly, that means reducing our team. I'm really sorry to see team members leave Lockwood, and I know this period will be hard for those leaving and unsettling for those staying. The tough decisions we take are to safeguard the future of our business and to secure the roles of as many people at Lockwood as possible.
Later, in a more detailed interview, Halley said last year ended with small losses, which journalists interpreted as a sign that Lockwood might be investing in new technologies. He also announced that Avakin would, in the coming years, become a platform for user-generated content.
We always wanted to do that, right from the beginning. We've been investing in tools and technology that would allow players to customize and create their own clothing items, their own interactivity in spaces. That's really the future.
But here we are in 2025. And what did we get? Avacraft, which is basically just recoloring existing items. Buildly, a tool for creating minigames inside Avakin, has such limited buggy functionality that only a handful of people use it. PUBG Mobile has a similar feature, but trust me, don't compare them unless you want to be disappointed. Halley also talked about Web3 technology, the idea that players could create and sell content, earning real money. But after 3 years, we've seen nothing remotely close to this. MCV concluded that Lockwood simply jumped on the Web3 hype train and quietly abandoned it. In 2023, in an interview with Pocketgamer for the company's 10-year anniversary, Halley complained that Web3 isn't viable on mobile because platforms take a 30% revenue cut, preventing fair profit sharing. Still, he promised he wanted to let users create their own worlds, communities, and sell content. The problem? Other platforms like Zepeto have already been doing this for years, successfully. And what about Avakin's more recent awards? Well, they got an Innovation Award for Avacraft and appeared in articles praising their integration of in-game advertising and audio ads. Quite a downgrade from the major awards they once earned. Finally, let's hear from the people who actually made the game. We read reviews about the Lockwood at the Glassdoor. Here's one of the director's opinion. Pros: they really care about employees and how things are going. Cons: meetings can be too often. Ha! No surprise, the directors at LKW are doing quite well. Now let's compare that to the rest. You can pause the video and read everything, and I will concentrate on the most important parts. Everything is a con here. Job security is unstable, as risk of redundancy is common. Company strategy changes almost daily and might get communicated to the rest of the staff at some point. Sell the company and walk away. This was by far the most toxic workplace I've experienced. Management appeared unprofessional, lacked people skills, and seemed disconnected from day-to-day realities. There was a constant expectation to go above and beyond without recognition or support. Some team members demonstrated a lack of collaboration of teamwork, and in some cases, displayed bullying behavior. Management have no clue. CEO can't speak in front of people and has no leadership skills. Redundancies every year, or they pay people off as priorities change as they U-turn on strategy. May as well put in a revolving door. The game is awful too, basically bleeding money from players and doing nothing with no game loops and actually making the game good. Old CEO that was friendly and helpful. Cons: everything that's happening now under development, etc. Here's more. The employee says colleagues were great, but the leadership team was awful. A culture of fear, zero respect, no bonuses, and then a Christmas dinner right after 30 people were made redundant. Here's one review that really exposes leadership. The employee says everything bad you've heard about Lockwood is true, and it all comes down to the leadership team. According to them, management shows zero empathy, sets all the wrong priorities, and even told staff to post fake positive reviews to cover up criticism. Leadership is obsessed with the worst tech trends, NFTs, Web3, blockchain, instead of actually improving the game. When workers raise concerns, they're treated as the problem and often laid off. The review says it's not just incompetence, it's cartoon villain behavior, completely out of touch and money-driven. Their advice: replace the CEO and his inner circle. The rot starts at the top. This review says management is bloated. Lots of pointless planning, but not enough workers left to do the actual job. Staff are stretched thin, deadlines are impossible, and every round of redundancies kills morale, while execs are untouched. Another review says the leadership team is atrocious, constantly changing direction, never showing empathy, and always afraid to stand up to the boss. CEO sets values and strategy, then flips them on a whim, reacts badly to criticism, and pushes the delusion that Avakin is the next Facebook, even claiming they should compete with Google and Meta for staff. Meanwhile, redundancies keep happening, but at the same time, they're hiring expensive executives and opening new studios. The good days at Lockwood are long gone. Every week, a new director is hired while at least one experienced staff member leaves, and yet a senior leader was caught funneling £600,000 to family members. HR doesn't even follow redundancy laws, and the leadership is driven by ego, constantly talking down to employees. Drop the ego, stop hiring yes men with zero product knowledge, and actually promote skilled staff from within instead of bringing in outsiders who don't care about the game. I think that's enough to get the picture, but if you want to dig deeper, all of these reviews are on Glassdoor. The link is in the description. There's plenty more to read if you want to form your own opinion about the game's leadership. So, who is Holly Bjornsson? He started as an artist, then became a lead artist in the games industry. After that, he jumped straight into being a CEO and has kept that seat for nearly 20 years. It's the resume of someone who jumped from one title to another until he landed in the CEO chair, where his main skill turned out to be squeezing money out of players. Even one of his former clients nailed it perfectly. He sees financial opportunities where others don't. And unfortunately, that's exactly what Avakin became under his leadership. Not a creative project, not a community, but a machine built to extract cash at any cost. As long as we keep paying them for overpriced skins, nothing will change. And if this continues, Avakin will end up like dozens of dead projects that once had millions of fans, abandoned and forgotten. That's why we, the players, must stand behind the call, made even by former employees, for a leadership change. We are the ones keeping Avakin alive with our money, and we can also shut that flow down. Endless bugs, greedy pay-to-win monetization, cheap recolors, broken items, ignored tickets, empty promises, stolen content, unfair bans, and the disgraceful abuse of their own developers. We will not tolerate this any longer. Not a single cent until the leadership either changes or gets replaced. They have two options: fix Avakin or hand it over to someone better. Share this information everywhere. Tell everybody. Every player needs to hear this. If we all join, they cannot ignore us. The silence ends now. Avakin will either change or collapse.